one thing I want to bring this back to is this idea that like the phones and internet don't have so much to do with the trend or aren't the root cause, because we can kind of look back and see that there was a general downward trend starting way before these things were mainstream. You can see, I think millennials had more access to technology than
the internet, right?
The previous. Yeah. And I absolutely think that is a unifying thing that has an effect and is a reason why it's happening in so many places. However, I wanted to think about things that precede this that might also be influencing this. So one thing, I think like this is just the industrialization sort of era, the 1900s. I think a lot about society has fundamentally changed. The way we view life and the things we chase, the way we want our careers to develop, the type of like homes, the scale of entertainment we have access to, not just on your phone, but in general, the scale at which entertainment, like video games, like movies, that all of those things exist in a capacity that they did not in the past. Thinking about growing up in maybe, I'm not going to hit the years exactly right, but if you're in the 1500s or the 1100s and you were an average person, what was the book you had you didn't have books. You had you had your Bible. And that was kind of it, because books were so expensive and difficult to go around.
Your generation's so fucked up, Aiden.
I
want my country back.
The things.
Every child gets a Bible.
I wanted to address this because if we took that argument seriously, I think there is a cohort, especially in America, that say like we are leaving God and Christianity behind, and that's the reason that these things are falling apart.
Dude, a Phones for Bible like activism program where you take a kid's Bible and give them a Bible.
Just swap it in. Like the Australian guns program.
Exactly
the gun buyback, but it's your phones and Bibles.
We give you a Bible.
It's so good.
I think it's when it's happening across so many different countries of so many different languages and cultures. It is so clearly not an absence of Christian religion.
Put Jesus in Fortnite.
That would be good.
Dude, he would pop. You can't tell me it wouldn't sell.
I mean, so I kind of disagree. Only because of your own data, right? You had boomers and you had Gen X at very high participation rates for all of these things.
Yeah, but thinking about the years, right? You're looking at boomers, you're looking at post-World War II into the decades following when...
They were industrialized.
Godless.
They had...
I think post-World War II, like lifestyle and post-World War II, like industrialization is sort of what I'm talking about. It's like... I think one other thing that I thought about was the push for individuality, a culture of individual success, and specifically women working. Like 50% of the population becoming expected to not just be stay-at-home moms anymore and have a family. It's like, no, you're going to pursue work and have a life in the same capacity that men do, basically. You now every person in society is expected to chase kind of the same dreams, and you now have like two competing ambitions that would be the like foundation of every straight relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
So I think that those things precede technology and I think are like the beginning of these trends shaping up. And then they happen to like encounter that culture of individual success feels like a baseline for these things starting. But then we happen to make a bunch of things along the way that made the trends increase by way more drastic margins that enhance all the factors that are at play.
Yeah, it's fair. Perry, can you pull up that graph again about the online? I want to give a thought that I think fits into what you're saying, which is that
you think God is dead? I
think God is dead. That's my idea, by the way. I invented that. Fuck you, Nietzsche. No, okay. I mean, as you're bringing it up, I'll just say like, it's not even that it is online. It's that it's different. I guess what I'm saying is that the world is different. Mm-hmm. And I think of someone like, if you think about how fast that is cosmically to go from basically nothing to basically everything, it's like no one older than you, your parents, your older siblings, they cannot give you advice. You are in a new realm with new activities, new standards, new everything, and no one can tell you how to navigate it. And I think things like this have happened throughout history and other rapid technological changes. And I feel like in a way, humans are figuring it out and we are finding ways to adapt to this. And we are kind of like, but like the people caught in the middle where we don't know what the hell is going on are the ones getting screwed. Is that,
I don't know. Could you give me an example of how you think we're figuring it out? Because I think I disagree with that part. I don't think we're figuring. It's like, sure, we're alive and like society is functioning at like a base level. But I don't think this transition is being handled very well. I don't think the average person is like.
I think that's fair. I guess maybe I'm hoping they'll figure it out.
You know what's I feel like maybe is a good metric we could use of have we figured it out is, does your country have babies at replacement population level? Because if your country is literally dying because people aren't having children, that feels like an indication that something is failing.
I see the direction you're going in. I think
Like if
I want to
South Korea
detach
is
that-
going to disappear in 2 generations because nobody wants to have babies for a myriad of reasons, largely economics, structurally, all the types of stuff.
Do you think if they get everybody free super likes on Tinder in Korea, it would solve the your face? Whoa, let's.
we could turn it around.
We could turn it around.
No, I don't know. That won't work because Christianity is actually still pretty lit in South Korea. They're really so God is not dead there,
lit.
so that couldn't be that.
Like a youth pastor with a backwards cap. You know the.
I actually, I mean, I don't feel strongly about this, but I think that's a reasonable metric of like something is clearly wrong broadly in society. If you can't, I mean, that's not to say everybody needs to have 2 babies, but like fundamentally there's an issue, right? And like if your society is at replacement levels, that's like, okay, people feel like they have a future to the point that they can meet significant others and raise a family. And if you don't have that, something is fundamentally wrong.
Sure.
Am I
think
how does that land?
I think I can actually agree with you in a general sense. I couldn't tell because maybe we just brought it up in the context of this graph where you're just talking about the scale of online dating.
Sure.
I do not think what you're talking about is rooted in online dating.
No.
Because that trend
but
is.
that's what you're talking about of this broader trend of like,
Yeah.
as for example, women are all pressured to go have a career, right? That's one of the
one of the things
defining things that
yeah.
are causing people to have less children. And it's an interesting metric to look at of like, okay, all this stuff's going on. There's all these cultural changes. Talking about the idea of have we fixed it or addressed any of these issues in a major way, I think one way is to look at, are people having families? That just feels like a very fundamental result of a society feeling healthy for people.
So I want to say, because this brings me to a transition too. I want to talk about in these articles you mentioned, it wasn't just romantic relationships.
It
is friendships. I mean, people are reporting more time alone. They're reporting less close friends. People say they have fewer close friends than ever. Like this generation has fewer close friends than anyone did at their age. And they are, spending more time online. And so it brings me to this article, Perry, if you could bring up the one I have about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg recently had a quote where he said, it's in the Discord, where he said, the average American has the appetite for 10 to 15 friendships, but they only have 3. And we're going to fill that gap. And he's talking about AI-generated chatbot friends.
I want Mark Zuckerberg to fill my gap. Get in there, Mark.
That would be better with it. And
my gap is ready
right
for
now,
you, Mark.
They are actually paying people $50 an hour to sample your smile and small talk to train AI chatbots.
Get in there, Mark. Get in there.
That's some Black Mirror shit.
There's so much
They wouldn't
space in
even
my life.
write that.
Get in.
That's wild. That is wild. Maybe he just wants it personally because he's kind of a robot himself. Maybe he just wants you to.
Well, no, he wears a chain now, so he's cool.
That is true. I heard he was cool.
He really
I heard
turned it around
he
with the
around
oversized
with the
tee.
windsurfing and the T-shirt that he designed himself but maybe he'll just pay $50 an hour for you to talk to him.
Yeah, to back up what you were saying, a lot of the comments, as I asked about this whole topic in Discord, were about socializing. People feel like it's more difficult. People aren't doing it anymore. A few that I thought were pretty interesting. Davius V, who said, most of my friends are attractive and funny creative, so they shouldn't have any trouble if they put themselves out there, but they're just too anxious to do so. They don't get out enough to meet people organically. So
Right,
again, this thing of people staying at home, hobbies are isolating, talk online. Yeah.
Because that could mean the problem's not with dating at all. It's like a byproduct of socializing.
That's why I was trying to draw it back to like meeting in person, because it's not like necessarily about dating, but it just seems like a lot of fundamental human interactions stem from that.
Fewer third places, fewer.
Yeah, and then the internet plus COVID supercharging it has just made everybody more online and more isolated.
And more dank though.
So many people mentioned the third places thing when we talked about the loneliness stuff on the first episode.
Yeah.
And I actually want to push back a bit.
Ooh.
I actually agree in a broad sense
home.
that I want more third places. I think it's important for people to have a space between, home and work in city. Like cities should be built with those things in mind. For
Like
example.
Costco.
Be able to walk, be able to bump into people.
You can meet and fuck someone at Costco over a hot dog, easy.
With a hot dog.
That'd be romantic.
It would be a romantic meet cute.
But based off of the trends in all of the countries we just outlined, I don't really feel like that's at the root of it. I think that's like an edge. That's
Interesting.
like
You think
an
it is the
edge
Bible?
enhancer to all of this. Because if you're gonna look me in the eye and tell me that
Okay, wait.
like the
List me
biggest cities
countries,
in
and I'm
all
going to
of
tell you if the cost of living has gotten way more expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is good.
And the housing's more expensive than people. Okay, tell me.
US,
no, go.
US,
Yes.
Canada,
Yes.
UK,
Yes.
France,
Yes.
Germany,
Yes.
Sweden,
Yeah. Yes.
South Korea,
Yes.
Japan,
Yes.
New Zealand,
Well, Japan, maybe not.
Japan's okay.
Japan's okay.
New Zealand, Australia.
And New
Japan
Zealand and Australia.
compensates for the housing
everybody
being
but Japan.
moderately affordable
I see what
by
you're saying.
working
Okay.
12 hours a day.
The pushback obviously is like, no, all these places are more expensive, or like going to third places is more expensive. But all of these places still have huge populations. Most of the big cities in these places have been growing. Most of these
There's stuff to do.
Most of these countries have way more like walkable and interactive city environments than the US and Canada do.
Yeah.
I do not think like the idea that money is preventing you from walking 5 minutes down the street in Paris to go to the park in your neighborhood and meet up with
People
people.
grind harder than you. All right. They're trying to make some bread.
All I'm saying is I do not think third places is the thing adding like huge percents of
If
the
we had
loneliness
a
to this.
bowling alley every corner in Paris, they will start fucking
Yeah.
again. I promise you that. I promise you that.
I think
No, I agree with you saying. I agree with you saying. I think it's a fair pushback. I mean, I think what we're circling here is like, there's a lot of factors, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors.
and I say that as somebody who wants to move to a different country because of the city layout and quality of
Yeah,
life.
the
Like
ability to walk, yeah.
I think it's important. Don't get me wrong. I do not think it is like a root cause.
Yeah, it was all. Yeah, that was another sentiment that a number of people expressed, which is basically like, you can also put yourself out there, and you have to do that. And like that was my experience. I had to start putting myself out there and being more assertive and more confident. That's hard to do. And then this gets back to anxiety and isolation, preventing people from feeling like they can go do this. Because like you can find things to do. Like you can do that in basically everywhere. If you're in a city, there's stuff to do. If you're not in a city, I grew up in
you could,
more not like just a boring suburbs. Like you can find stuff to do. Like
Buy them a Patreon sub to this podcast. You guys put in 2 cute
Patreon
headphones,
slash
listen
Lansing.
together.
And I want to say something important, all right? Just to again push back from Pelmus in the Discord. Personally, I pipe at an insane frequency. So I'll opt out of this conversation. So
Based. People are doing it.
People are
fucking
fucking
finding
doing it.
their
Still
way.
do.
Lemonade stand viewers, especially.
if you listen to this, you want to get involved in the conversation on Discord, you can sign up for the Patreon. The $5 tier gets you an extra episode every week, and you get access to the Discord.
and you get
just
piping
to,
advice from.
just to chill it. Well, no, you don't get piping advice, but you get piping updates. So you can come in here and you can put a little fire emoji if Pelmus got laid
maybe you
again.
like watch closely enough.
We'll make
through
a channel.
osmosis learn his
Did
techniques.
Pelmus get laid in the last hour? And it's just a green or a red, kind of like a Wordle.
I have 2 theories I want to posit at the end of this conversation. One less significant than the other, but you mentioned it briefly.
Okay.
Is that and so I didn't think of this until someone in the Discord brought this up. Is that your accessibility to your parents being good people for advice as they apply to life?
Yeah.
This applies to applying for jobs. It applies to what is the value of school, how you should talk to people, how you should date. All of these dynamics have changed so much that your parents or figures in your life that you're able to ask for advice are not able to provide very good advice.
That's what I was getting at.
The classical example of just go in and hand in your resume. It does not work anymore. It doesn't work
Not
like
even
that.
close. Like it's so different.
Yeah. And I think that is a small point that I think is worth mentioning, where like the pace of the change has taken role models' ability to really push people in the right direction, where it's fractured it. The last thing that I've thought about is what you just said. You said at a certain point you decided to like put yourself out there, right? And I think that the pace at which you learn things about yourself, from like failing, from discomfort, from putting yourself out there, from interacting with other people, like this fear of rejection, this anxiety that exists. I think even without phones and the internet, because entertainment is so much more broadly accessible, you can take any moment you're uncomfortable, especially now, but even if you go back, this scales as time passes. You can take any moment that you're uncomfortable and consume some sort of entertainment that satiates you. You can hit the baba, if you will. And because you're able to do that in any moment where you feel uncomfortable, or you might push yourself in a direction out of basically boredom, you get to sit back and do something passive that occupies you. So all of these little moments in your life where you would choose to venture out a little further and push yourself a little more happen with wider and wider gaps between them. And it gets harder and harder to learn things. And the longer the gaps are too, the more your anxiety builds within those periods of time. And it makes it harder and harder to finally convince yourself to put yourself out there and learn the things that I think maybe your parents or their parents were learning at way younger ages.
I think that's the wisest thing you said in this podcast.
Yeah, that's very well said.
I like the way you said that. I think that's important for people to hear. Yeah.